Hi and welcome. The tags I'm going to create today are inspired color-wise from our holidays. It's the first video I'm editing after we are back from Croatia. We have been to Punat, and on the island Kirk you get the most beautiful landscape and colors. And these orangey red tones are for the red earth you have in Croatia, and also this year for a lot of the trees, because they are completely dried out because they had no rain almost the whole summer. I have the blues for the ocean and the greenish and the antique linen color for the rocks there, and also for their grass. I want to make a background. I don't know if I will use all of the colors. I just picked those out so I know they will match together. I will start with the earthy tones, and I'm starting with the aged mahogany and the spiced marmalade. And when you use oxides, it's always better to use a craft mat instead of a glass plate, because the color runs together on a glass plate. And when you use a craft mat, I will do this in my next step, then you get really nice pearls with the ink for some amazing texture. And that's something that's really important, I think, when you use distress products or distress inks. The tags are cut from mixed media paper. I'm using the Canson mixed media paper, and I used a die cut from Stamplorations. And here, if you use the glass plate, you get some really boring effects and texture, because the whole puddle of ink and water runs together. This might be okay for the first layer, so you get some color down, but for the second I am going to use this piece of a baking mat. That works also excellent. You don't need to buy a craft mat. And here you can see that I get these beads of ink, and that gives me some really nice texture. I'm happy with the background. I will now dry these tags. When you dry Distress Oxides, you can add water to them and then dry them with your heat tool to create even more texture on your piece, because the ink is always reactive, and it also has this oxide effect with the white borders around the puddles, and you get a really nice background. I will dry this off camera, and then I will be back with the dried tags. The oxides always dry a little bit milky. That's really interesting, I think, for a background. But now I want to go in with the Distress ink just to get a more intense color. And I'm using a stamp from the Pencil Marks number 5 just to create some texture on the background. I used the Distress ink vintage photo, and I spritzed the stamp with a little bit of water, because that makes a really nice watercolory effect. It's not that important which stamp you are using. That will work with many background stamps. I'm drying the stamp in between because I spritz it with water, and I don't want it to be too wet, especially when I put down the distress ink onto the stamp, it's better when it's dry. I will dry this again with my heat tool. I wanted to embellish my tags a little bit, and I'm trying out different things because at this stage I wasn't sure which piece I wanted to add, and here I'm preparing that circle from the Grungy Stuff stamp set with a turquoisey color. This stamp is now also available on a clear set. I don't have in mind if it's the Mix It Up one or two, but I will link the right one underneath in the video description. All the stamps from the Grungy Stuff set, I believe all the stamps, are on either the Mix It Up 1 or Mix It Up 2. I made a collection from the Grungy Stuff, the Mixed Media Marks 2 and 3, into 2 other clear sets, and I put in the stamps that I like the most from these sets, and I put them together in a way that I get a lot of stamps onto the A5 sheet, so they are mixed up a little bit. Also available now are the textured mushrooms, which are perfect for autumn, and I already shared a lot of projects with them on my Instagram page, and also the textured Christmas trees are available as a clear stamp. I colored in the turquoisey circles, but I was not sure if I like the ink over the stamped circle. So here I'm creating just a super quick background with the colors, and then I want to dry this and stamp over it. While this is all drying, I want to come back to the tags again and do some stamping directly on them. And here I also want to use that circle image, and I think about using it only on one side, so I have not a full circle, just a part of it, and then I plan to add the other circle. I just prepare it to the tag as well as kind of an embellishment. I wanted to add some more texture, and I'm using that grid stamp from the Mixed Media Marks number 1. It's my, I think, most used stamp. I use it for many backgrounds, and also I like it for jelly printing. And I just stamp it a little bit to my tags. Also, one of my most used stamps are these numbers, and these are now also available in a bigger size, and I also think in the negative shape on the Mix It Up stamp sets. I think the top of the tags is pretty empty. I really like the contrast of the white, but I feel it needs some splatters on top. And so I'm using the black soot ink to just create some black splatters all over my tags. I don't use the black soot distress ink because it will give me that oxide effect. I use the normal distress ink. While this is drying, I am preparing my main images, and I am planning to use the flowers from the pencil marks number 4, and I used the Distress Oxide in black soot to stamp them. Oxide works better for stamping than Distress ink because you get a better image. And here I'm spritzing the stamps a little bit with water before I put them to paper, and that gives a really interesting hand-drawn effect. I already have prepared some flowers because it takes a while until they are dry, and I have cut out these turquoisey circles, and here I'm going to try out if I like black circles more than the turquoisey ones. Usually I stamp with VersaFine clear ink when I stamp to normal paper like watercolor paper or cardstock. If I stamp onto an acrylic surface, then I would use StazOn because the VersaFine clear does not dry really good on an acrylic background or on any non-porous surface. I have already prepared some words to put to the tags. Now I will cut out the circles and then I will arrange everything and see what fits best. I think my flowers need some color, and I decided to color them in with the Peacock Feathers Distress ink. Of course, I have to be a bit careful not to reactivate the black outlines, so I'm working super quickly. Another option would have been to use alcohol markers because that would not affect the stamped image. I feel the flowers look a bit, I would say undefined, especially after they are completely dry. So I will redraw the outlines with my black watercolor pencil. It's from Faber-Castell from the Magnus series. And I dip the nib into water and just redraw the lines of the flowers a little bit to give them more definition. Now it's time to arrange them on the tags to see if I want to use that black circle or that turquoisey circle, and where I want to place the flower. Usually when I don't know which arrangement to use, I take photos and then I flip through the photos and see what I like the most. It also helps to have a view through the camera onto the project, because that gives you some distance, and distance is always good to make decisions. I think I'm going to use the turquoisey one because it matches up with my flower the best. But before I'm gluing everything down, I want to make some turquoisey splatters. And as I want them to be opaque on top of that background, I'm using acrylic ink. I'm using a glue stick to adhere the circle because it's pretty flat, but it's not so easy to adhere something that is that stable with a glue stick. So I have to put something on top to hold it down. For the flower, I'm going to use glossy accents to adhere them because that's just the best glue for crafty projects. I feel the only thing I don't like is that it's shiny when it runs outside your piece, but it adheres super fast, and it also has this fine nib to put the glue down. I feel that this area in that corner on the bottom is pretty dark, so I feel it needs some light spots, and what is better than making white splatters? And I'm using acrylic ink, of course, because it would be opaque on top. Yes, and these are my finished tags. I hope you enjoyed this video today and you are a little bit inspired to do some crafty projects at the moment with that autumn weather outside. It might be a good thing to do. Maybe you would like to leave a comment or give me a thumb up, and then I hope you will see us next weekend. Bye!